Brian and Bumo's challenging Van Dijk for it. Alexis McAllister's there as well. Van Dijk clears them both out, elbows McAllister in the head accidentally, so he's on the ground with a head injury, and Bumo gets cleared out. He's on the floor, but he looks up, and rather than moaning that...
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Sorry.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another Watch More Football. We're going to be discussing some of the games in the Premier League over this past week. And a kind of little look ahead at what's coming this coming weekend as well. Sorry we've not been on for a few weeks, but things happen, but we're back trying to cover up as much as we can at the moment. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you're watching us on the Genreverse Sports YouTube channel, which you are if you're watching this, why not check out our main Genreverse YouTube channel as well. It's focused mostly on anime, but there's tons of stuff on there if you're interested in that. It's got news, reactions, reviews, things like that. So
I'm gonna plug our 13 Days of Terror.
And also, if you're more interested, go.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug our 13 Days of Terror. We got horror movie reviews going on for the last couple weeks of October. 13 third films in horror franchises, so Scream 3, Army of Darkness from the Evil Dead series, Alien 3, Leprechaun 3, check it out, and yeah, that's it, I'm done. Get back to work, guys. What the hell are you doing?
I've been looking at the titles, I've been looking at the titles, and it had never occurred to me that they're all threes that you've been doing.
Yeah,
that escaped me completely.
That's what we decided to do.
Yeah,
it's fun stuff.
Anyway, they are good. They are good fun, those. And it's always good at this time of year to kind of look over stuff like that, because everybody's always looking to watch scary films at Halloween. If written content's more your thing, which is mine, I am one of the writers over at limonline.com, and I tend to cover rumours, news, I do reviews as well of lots of things in the entertainment industry, TV, movies, a lot of geek culture stuff, so any content like that you're interested, why not check out lrmonline.com for it. As always, I'm here with Ryan and our producer Kel, who you've already heard from. So anyway, Ryan is having a little glass of wine at the of the thing, so hopefully it won't be that by the end of it he's slurring his words and stuff like that.
No more than usual anyway.
No more, yeah. So yeah, do you want to start us off with predictions and how we're getting on, Ryan?
Well, I guess it's a celebratory glass of wine, because I find myself at the top of the table once again this season. It's been a common occurrence this season. Not only am I top of the table, but I top scored for the week with 10. Mick is making his way up there as well. He's scored 9, and he's a few points behind me. Dave has had another poor week, and Rich is really nicely filling into the role that I played last season, it has to be said. He's propping things up.
He's not doing well.
He's trailing. No. Kyle, good week from you.
He did say he was providing the foundation for us.
Yeah. Kyle's been fairly consistent, and Cam, you're maybe slipping off a bit, but early days yet.
Off a bit, yeah.
They say the table doesn't really properly take shape until 10 weeks in, so we'll see where we are in a couple
I guess
of weeks.
It's the same in predictions leagues. I don't know if it is the same in prediction leagues, because last year it was basically me and Dave the whole way. We met occasionally threatening, and that was about it. But it doesn't always work out like that. And as you say, the more unexpected the results are,
the more it works in my favour. What I would say is, it was a fairly sort of consistent. I'm looking at the actual predictions that we made last week, and there's a lot of games where we went very similar to each other. So the four of us, apart from Rich and Kyle, all went for a score draw in Palace versus Bournemouth. We all went, apart from Dave and Rich, Chelsea beating Forest quite comfortably. Dave, for obvious reasons. I don't know why Rich thought that Forest were going to get a draw against Chelsea in that game, considering and we'll get onto that story later, but Forest spent the entire international break talking to Sean Dyche to replace Ange Postecoglou.
I also don't know why I thought that Newcastle were going to beat Brighton, because we never beat Brighton at Brighton's ground. So
you and Mick both went 1-0. I went 2-0 on that, and the rest of the lads went 1-1. Obviously, Brighton came out on top of that, which, as you were saying at the time, is par for the course.
We should be looking at previous, and I should have put a bet on that Welbeck would score as well, because they bring him out of stasis for this game of the year. But we need to get better at these damn predictions, making stupid mistakes.
I mean, in terms of results that tripped us all up, so nobody had Burnley beating Leeds, nobody had Villa beating Spurs, and nobody had United beating Liverpool. So they're the three that really, that will stand out. And I think there could be cases to have been made for all of them, but they all sort of went against the grain, I guess you could say.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, last year we would have definitely bet on Villa beating Spurs, but just in the context of this season, probably not. I think it's hard to get a handle on those teams as well, because Spurs started fairly well and have just sort of tailed off a little bit, whereas Villa started really poorly and they had a tough night in the Europa League tonight, but they have started to pick up a bit of form in the league. So that was an interesting one, I guess. Yeah, there's still something missing. But then again, look at my team, Newcastle, and I don't think we've quite got the results that we would expect at this point this year as well. So there's a few teams not quite performing, and there's a few teams that I think are overperforming at the moment.
It's a weird one, Newcastle, because I said the other week that, you wouldn't have Newcastle down as being a struggling club this season, because, I don't know, whenever I've watched them, they've looked decent, but they're just not getting the rub of the green in some games, I guess.
Yeah, results, but it's also inconsistent performances within a game. So we have bad 10-15 minute spells in games sometimes, and that can cost you points, and it has cost us points. We've also had games where we've had 2 home games, which you expect to win your home games. We've already played Liverpool and Arsenal, and they've both beaten us, and we played well against both of them, but lost. So I don't think we're playing badly. We're just not getting the points we would expect to get at this point of the season. So I think it will affect us going forward, though. Okay, well, what about our team of the week then? I must admit I wasn't too involved in this, but I know you and some of the other guys were this weekend.
Rich put a few names forward. I slapped something together Sunday morning and got no challenges to it. Or was it Monday morning? Got no challenges to it. I
think it was Monday night before I even watched the match of the day highlights, to be honest. This week it was just one of those weekends. I watched our game, Newcastle's game, but that's it.
But we'll go through it. So in goal we got Martin Dubravka from Burnley. They kept a clean sheet against Leeds. He made a couple of decent saves to keep it 1-0 at the time. And I think they then went on to get the second and see out the win. That's quite a big win for them, because to my mind Burnley are the weakest of the 3 promoted sides. So to get a win over one of the other ones is quite a big deal for them. Although Leeds were quite poor in that game from what I saw. We got
and I don't know, will Leeds continue their good form, or will they get worse from here and Burnley could improve? That's the thing. It's hard to say.
I think Leeds are really struggling for goals, which is surprising, because it looked to me like they had some decent forwards, but they're just not scoring enough. I don't think Leeds. They're all right defensively, but I don't know.
Maybe they're just so focused on getting the defence right that they've not quite got the balance, and that happens sometimes when you, because if you defend poorly, you'll just get beat so many games that you need to get that right as a
absolutely. We got Reece James at right back. Now this was one of Rich's suggestions. Obviously Chelsea kept a clean sheet. James got a goal at the end after Forest had sort of thrown the towel in a a little bit. But he has been in very good form. He's playing well. He seems to be keeping fit. They seem to be managing him well, which is a big deal for him. So it's good to see him getting a run of games and being effective, because he's England's best right back when he's fit, as far as I'm concerned. So good to see him playing a good part. And he's still quite a young player, relatively speaking, but in Chelsea's terms, he's got bags of experience. So it's really important for them that he stays fit, because he is a leader in that back line, and they haven't got a great amount of that.
They don't have so much.
Yeah. Next up, we got Gabriel from Arsenal. He kept Fulham at bay. He then set up Trossard for the goal that won the game for them. Not much more to really say about that. Just a typical Gabriel performance for Arsenal.
And then he went and scored 2 in midweek in the Champions League as well.
Yeah. And then we got Dan Ballard for Sunderland next to him. He's had a good season. He is what I really love with a lot of promoted sides, especially the ones that come up with the playoffs, is they'll always have one player who's he's a bit of a talisman in the Championship. He just has a really good season in the Championship that drags him through. And then he looks like a bit of a jobber when he gets to the Premier League. He's not quite Premier League level, but he'll still come up with stuff. But Ballard's actually having a genuinely just good season. He looks like a genuinely good centre-back, rather than just he's a key man for this team.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things with Sunderland where, and I know I'm probably slightly biased, where they've just get that wave of good fortune, and when things go wrong, I've seen Ballard play. He's not as if he's a new player, so I've seen him play a few times for Sunderland, and I was never impressed with him in the old Sunderland team. So I don't necessarily think he's a baller or anything like that. He's just having a good spell for me, but he deserves it this week.
Yeah, he had a good game against Wolves. He very solid at the back. Had a couple of chances going forward as well. So we've put him in there. And then I've got Calafiori at left back, not for the first time. I think he's having a brilliant season at left back, to be honest. He had an absolutely gorgeous goal chalked off offside really early on in the Fulham game, where
correctly chalked off as well.
Yeah, it was correctly. Yeah, but it was a really nice ball from Trossard just to sort of curl it in behind for him. And then what he's even doing in the centre forward position from left back anyway, I don't know, but he just pulls off a ridiculous finish on it. And fine, Trossard was a hair offside, but yeah, it took him a while to settle. Last year, he was inconsistent last year, but this is kind of what we expected when they bought him last year, I think. But it's just one of those that sometimes it takes a bit of time for someone to adapt. And he's one of those ones. Arteta loves doing this. Because they signed him off the back of a good season that he had in the Euros, and he was part of the Bologna team that did really well as well, I think. But he was a centre back for Italy, and he was a centre back for Bologna, as far as I'm aware. And Arteta just sort of moves him out to the left, and he's done that with quite a few centre backs. You think Timber, Ben White, Tomiyasu when he was there, and he just really seems to be getting on with it well. It's an interesting one, that one. And then we'll move into midfield. I've got Che Adams. No, it's not Che Adams, is it? He's a Scottish striker who can't score. It's Tyler Adams, who's the American defensive midfielder for Bournemouth. He was absolutely everywhere for them, especially in the first half, where Bournemouth were much the better team. They went 2-0 up and just were all over Palace. That game ended 3-3 thanks to Jean-Philippe Mateta, who we've got up front. But Adams put in a brilliant performance for Bournemouth. We got Leslie Ugachukwu for Burnley, who opened the scoring for them. It was quite a nice goal. I can't remember the details, but I do remember thinking at the time it was a good goal. The second goal in that Burnley game was a much nicer goal. I think it was Chowner who 30-40 yards, just absolute rocket across the goal. But Ugachukwu's goal was nice as well. And then Morgan Rogers. Now, I didn't actually see this goal that he scored for Villa against Spurs, but I've heard it was a good one. But I think you saw it, did you, Cam?
I mean, I must have, because I
Yeah.
watched the highlights, but I can't remember what happened.
I think it was quite a long range one, but yeah.
I did tell you I wasn't too attentive on the football this week, I must admit, other than our own games.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, from what I saw, he played pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Deserved to get
and then up front, we've got Antoine Semenyo for Bournemouth, who again just
how many
he's
weeks
key
in
to
a
everything
row is
Bournemouth
that
do.
he's been in?
I don't know about in a row, but he's one of the few people
must be.
with multiple shouts. Let me have a look.
Like 3 or 4 already.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. He was in last week. He was in, although we didn't obviously present that last week because we didn't record. He was in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, he's not been in for a few weeks before that though. He was in game week 4. That was the previous one.
So it's only twice? 3 times, sorry.
4 times because he was in the first week. So he's an early front runner.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We've got Danny Welbeck, who I've been unkind to. I've shoved him out on the left, but he got 2 goals against Newcastle.
Yeah, but you came. It was one of those weeks where you know, there was quite a few central strikers did well, but you need to kind of fit them in. You know?
I mean,
so, yeah.
You know, Haaland got his customary 2 goals that he's getting every game nowadays. He's got to do something a bit more special to get into the team of the week because he turns up, he swings a boot, he scores a goal.
Always in your eyes, 2 goals, isn't it? No. But
well,
I mean, I think
it's just...
it would have been harsh to put him before Mateta, and he scored the same amount of goals as Welbeck. So there's a, you know, it's a 50-50, isn't it?
I think aesthetically, it's nicer to have Welbeck on the left than it is Haaland. Haaland would look weird on the left, same as Mateta would. So we can't do that. Welbeck, we can get. He looks like he can play off the left.
Do a shift on the left.
Sure. Yeah. So that's our reasoning.
He kind of run off. He run from left into centre. He scored his first goal a little bit.
Yeah,
as well.
that's enough for us. That's enough for us.
Welbeck scores all the time against us, and it's just unbelievable. He's been doing nothing all season as well.
Yeah. He's playing against United this weekend as well, and he likes a goal against United as well, which is not ideal. But yeah, that's our team of the week.
I've predicted you to win that. Yeah. In terms of, I mean, we might as well talk about that, kind of start off with the Crystal Palace and Bournemouth game being 3-3. Obviously, it's a pretty exciting game to watch. If you didn't see it live, even just watching the highlights was pretty good. But it was, we were kind of talking about it as it was coming in because Bournemouth went 2-0 up. You know,
and they were cruising. So, Palace weren't getting a kick.
Yeah.
And then they, Mateta got a couple of goals, dragged them back into it. The remarkable thing is Mateta got a hat-trick. He probably could have had another hat-trick in terms of missed chances. And then especially at the end, because Bournemouth went 3-2 ahead on like 85 minutes. And then the board comes up for stoppage time and it's 8 minutes. And it's like, oh, this is loads of time, lads. And then Palace get their equaliser off a penalty. And it was an interesting penalty because it's one of those ones where it's a corner and there's all the pushing and shoving, and Mark Gay gets brought down. And they're not given every week, even though it happens every week. So that's an interesting one. Mateta converts it, and then after kickoff, they go at the other end, and Mateta has a sitter from like 5 yards out that he somehow sends over the bar. And so he scored a hat-trick to get his team back into the game and draw it 3-3. And he comes off the pitch absolutely furious with himself that he's missed the winner at the end.
It just shows you, though, and I imagine that for a comeback if Palace had ended up winning it after that. But, two teams that are really in good form. So therefore, when they came against each other, it was just fireworks, and sometimes you just get the right teams at the right times. I do think both will drop off, and I don't think they have strength and depth, especially with Palace having Europe. That's
going to be the big thing. Bournemouth don't have it, so you'd think Bournemouth. I don't think they're going to be top 4, but I think they will.
No.
they will stay competitive for longer than they did last season, because all of the teams that they were competing with last season have now got Europe. So
it also depends what happens in January a little bit as well, because they are a selling team, and if somebody like a Man United or Liverpool, probably won't happen till summer, but if someone comes in for one of the players in January that's struggling, you just never know. And again, you just don't know with the teams in and around them, will they buy in January? Probably.
I mean, the big one is Semenyo, and obviously he signed a new contract recently, but also he's going to be away with Ghana for the African Cup of Nations in December and January, so that'll affect them, because he's clearly their best player, but it might keep him at the club for that month and for the rest of the season
till the summer.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's going to come in for him, because that would be big money. At this point, I mean, I think they're already trying to say 100 million, which is weird, because you could have got him for the same price as all the other wingers went for this summer, for probably 60 million. You could have got him, no problem. But because he started so well now, and everybody's looking at the market the way it was, his price is suddenly shooting up. Last year he did this in spells as well, and then he fell off sometimes for spells where there was weeks and weeks went by where he could hardly kick a ball, then suddenly he would come back again. And that's the level of a top quality player, is how consistent are they throughout the whole of a season, if you like. So I don't know, we'll wait and see. I'm not quite sure he's Real Madrid level yet, or 100 million level yet, but I could definitely see other teams going for him in the summer.
Yeah, for sure.
Adam Wharton for Palace, another one,
Yeah, I think.
What about so we've also got. Sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to segue onto another game.
That's fine.
At this point, so if you've getting.
Yeah.
In terms of just obviously your mob. Manchester United played Liverpool at Anfield, and you beat them, and it would be fair to say you deserve to beat them as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep a lid on things to a certain extent, because it has been very easy for the media, and to be fair, they've been a bit reserved as well, to say, oh, this is it, United have finally won 2 games in a row, they're back because they beat Liverpool, all that sort of thing. But actually, the media have just gone, can United build on this? Not United are back, it's can they make this actually count? Because there's 2 different things. On one hand, the game against Liverpool, regardless of what United are doing, that's always the biggest game of the season. It was always the biggest game, even when we were winning everything under Fergie. It's most certainly the biggest game now that we're doing fuck all.
And the thing is, it does. You were the better team. Sometimes Liverpool would beat you, and it would be a tough game that you would sometimes lose, even when you're a better team. Now that Liverpool are the better team, sometimes they still get beat by Man United, even when you are not so good. Not very often.
So that was our first win at Anfield in 10 years. We'd get a good draw off them. Yeah, we get a good draw off them, but at Anfield we really struggle. So from that perspective, absolutely brilliant. I said going into it, Liverpool have got quite significant weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and I would really like to see United actively target those weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and I think that's what we did. And Amarim changed his lineup. He didn't change the shape or the formation, but he picked his players with a view of making Van Dijk and Konate uncomfortable, and that absolutely succeeded, and I'm buzzing for that. On top of just the fact we beat Liverpool, and they looked a shit show, and they're a mess at the minute.
That's what I kind of wanted to ask you in terms of maybe it's just a combination of both, but I don't think Liverpool are playing well at the moment. Were they just shit, or was it just that they weren't quite good and yous were quite good on the day? I never watched the game kind of beat by beat. I was watching it in patches, if you like.
Yeah. So I think it was a game that really summed up what we've seen from Liverpool all season, because they've been very impressive going forward, but really suspect defensively, and that was getting them through games at the start of the season. But just last few weeks, they'd started to be found out. And I think what really set the tone is obviously we scored after 1 minute, but the way we scored was high ball comes in, Brian Mbeumo's challenging Van Dijk for it, Alexis McAllister's there as well. Van Dijk clears them both out, elbows McAllister in the head accidentally, so he's on the ground with a head injury, and Mbeumo gets cleared out, he's on the floor, but he looks up, and rather than moaning that...
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Sorry. And rather than moaning that Van Dijk's gone through him, he looks up and he sees that Ahmad's on his bike down the wing. So he gets back up and starts running. And before Van Dijk knows really what's happened, Mbeumo's in the clear and he's one-on-one with the keeper and he scores. Whereas Van Dijk's still sort of worrying about, should the game have been stopped because McAllister was on the ground and all that sort of thing. And realistically, the game should have been stopped. It wasn't a foul because Van Dijk hit him. It was still a head injury. He was bleeding from the head. He was bandaged up, had a skull cap on afterwards and all that sort of thing. The rest should have spotted that and stopped the game at that point. But it's not something that VAR can even look at.
I don't know. I know that's the current rules because it's a head injury.
Yeah.
But to me, that's just, you should just have to take your medicine with that. That's clumsy from Van Dijk and McAllister hitting each other. And if they hurt each other, I know it was only one of them get hurt, and that gives Man United the advantage. The way I see it is tough titty, get up and go on with it.
Yeah,
but,
and it's
that's
just
a bit old school. So
I think, but I mean the laws of the game dictate that the game should have been stopped. But I just think
because
in the split second, I think the play moved on too quickly for the ref to do anything about it. You see the head injury stoppages quite a lot. And it's never like, that player's on the ground, I want to stop the game right now. It always, it's always a good 5-10 seconds. And in that 5-10 seconds, United
they have to wait
scored.
Because you don't know if the players actually just stubbed their toe and is rolling around holding their head. You don't know because they act so much. So I guess the referee's got it with his side to see, is it? Wait a minute, he's not moving. This might be serious. But what they couldn't have done, Ryan, though, and I think some of our fans were asked to say, VAR should be pulling that back. What do you pull it back for?
No, because there's no rule breach. There's no rule breach. It's just, it's a safety rule, isn't it? And the ref, for whatever reason, didn't deem it to be a safety issue enough to stop the game. And but all of that, and I have this all the time when decisions like that go against United. My philosophy is always like, fine, maybe it should have gone the other way, but it doesn't excuse the poor defending that leads to all of that.
No,
and
no, it never does.
Yeah,
but you still moan about it when you're a fan anyway.
But I literally don't, and I've got the receipts to prove it. But I don't know, I'm weird.
But I think Liverpool are, what was that? It was their third league game loss in a row and their fourth loss in a row. Now, they won in the Champions League earlier on in this week. But they were playing a poor team in the Champions League, and they actually started in that game poorly as well. Went 1-0 down, looked awful. And it was almost like it took them 25 minutes to work out, wait a minute, we're playing literally a terrible team here and we should be smashing them. And once they realised that, they just destroyed Frankfurt. But they're not doing well in the league at the moment.
Florian Wirtz realised he was back in Germany playing against a German defence and he remembered how to play again. Yeah. But I mean, going back to the...
Okay, but Isaac's not playing well at all at the moment, isn't he? And that's been quite big press because of the money that's spent on him. And as somebody that's watched the guy play a lot, because he used to play for my team, his body language just doesn't look right to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on because I don't care, to be honest. But I'm watching him play, and he just seems to be kind of walking about, and there's no sprinting. I don't know whether it's a fitness issue or there's a mental issue, the pressure or something like that. But he just doesn't look the same player at all.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the United game at the weekend with it as well, it's Mo Salah had a really poor game. Isak had a really quiet game. He had one chance. It was a one-on-one. It was a one-on-one that Senna Lamens really dealt really well with. Their main threat was Cody Gakpo, and the game, for all United deserved to win, and it was a very good performance from United and the sort of thing that I wanted to see from them. Cody Gakpo hit the post 3 or 4 times, and if any of those had gone in, it would have been a very different game, I think. But I mean,
he scored more goals this year than Isaac. And I think Ekitike is a good player though. And has been a good signing, but so far,
but they need to
show.
They need to sort the balance between midfield and attack, and if they don't go out and try and sign a centre back and a right back in January, they're going to get nowhere near the title. I don't think, Liverpool, because I know they signed Frimpong to replace Alexander-Arnold, but he's much better going forward than he is defensively. He came on for Salah at the weekend and basically played that position.
At left as well, because Kerkez isn't getting a game. They've went back to Andy Robertson, and you're seeing the issues that Andy Robertson had last year.
Kerkez played against United, but he's not started the season well. But you feel like once he settles down into being a Liverpool player, he will be good, because he was very good for Bournemouth last season. He's just, I don't know, it's just not quite happened for him yet. Whereas, just for how Slot seems to want to play, Frimpong is just not that sort of right back, I don't think. And Conor Bradley is again more of a wing back than a right back. So I think they need to address that. They obviously need to get
Conor Bradley's young enough to learn, but are you prepared to play him every week to teach him that, and maybe suffer some games and not win things? That's the thing, because of the money they spent, pressure's kind of on Liverpool to do well this year, not to just have an okay season and then build a team for next year. It's when you spend that much money, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll see how it goes. For you guys, I think it's just can you keep this going? And
what we need to do is
not necessarily, you don't have to win every week. You just need to play reasonably well every week.
Exactly.
You don't have any other
this is what I've been
to distract you.
This is what I've been saying all season, is that we need to keep a consistent level of performance and just like a consistent game plan going, and that has started to take shape in recent weeks. We had a good performance against Sunderland. We had a good performance against Liverpool, with things that are repeatable in terms of how we approach the game. The energy level in both those games has been good. We need to bring that into Brighton, and if we don't, then my not getting excited on this game will be vindicated, because there's just, if we're unlucky and we fall to the odd goal, fine, but we need to put in the actual effort, and we need to put it, play like we mean it against Brighton at the very least, because if we do that, we've got a decent run of fixtures where we could put in a good run of form and genuinely turn the corner.
Just beat us, but they are not as good away as they are at home, Brighton.
No.
I'd feel more confident again if it was at St James's Park. So if we were playing again next week, so I think I fancy you beating.
And our home form has been quite good this season, to be fair. The only game we've lost at home was the Arsenal game at the start of the season, which really we could have won as well. So
again, we've lost to Arsenal. I don't think you can moan too much about that, the way they're playing this year.
There's faint shoots at United. I'm still not entirely convinced that Amorim's going to see out the season, but there is something there to build on. They just need to go out and actually build on it.
Yeah, we'll just need to wait and see. If you'd lost to Sunderland, I could have seen him going, but he seems to have turned the corner slightly at the moment, but he needs to keep it going.
But it is literally 2 games, because the game, the week before Sunderland, we were terrible against Brentford. So, yeah. We should probably
he did
move
get
on,
a lot longer though. Yeah, he did get a lot longer than Ange Postecoglou, who has been sacked as Nottingham Forest manager following that defeat to Chelsea.
Yeah.
After only 39 days in charge. So if you remember, the first team to sack someone this year was Nottingham Forest. They got rid of previous manager Nuno Espirito Santo, who had done really well with them, and we were all kind of like, why are they doing this? This is a strange decision, and it proved to be so, because they brought in Ange Postecoglou, who didn't do so well with Spurs. Well, say that he won a cup last year, but I'm going to put an
He did that
asterisk
by-
next to that because, they were the best of a bad bunch in that competition. But, really poorly in the league. He lost his job at Spurs and they've went and brought him in. And you were kind of thinking at the time, this doesn't make sense. Like, it's a completely different style of football. And that proved to be the case. He hadn't won a single game since he joined, and across 2 or 3 competitions, and lost almost every game. Although, how were they expected to beat Chelsea though at the weekend?
No,
that was
but
you need to win that game to stay. And I'm thinking,
it's. I think
Chelsea.
for all it's a ridiculously early sacking, it's very hard to argue that it wasn't the right thing to do because it was very clear from early days that it just wasn't going to work. So, like, his second game in...
they shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Yeah. His second game in, he's playing Swansea in the League Cup, and they're 2-0 up really late on. They end up losing that game 3-2, which you just can't do against a Championship side. They started well against Real Betis in the Europa League at home in Ange's first home game this season. They started well. I think they scored. They had a few more chances. Betis ended up battering them in the end. And in Ange's first home match in charge, the Forest fans are saying sacked in the morning. And this was like his 4th game overall. He'd been there 2 weeks.
Yeah,
you don't.
That's the thing as well. The
and
Forest fans
they were never having him. They were never
Yeah.
having him, and that's
No.
partly because they were really attached to Nuno. But then they were really attached to Steve Cooper before he went, and then got on well with Nuno straight away.
I think
with the
Forest
Chelsea
fans
game,
probably could just see what the rest of us could. That it didn't make
Yeah.
sense. It was a project manager for and they didn't need that now. So they already had a decent team, the best team they've had for a long time. The first time they've qualified in Europe for a long time. Just keep that team playing like that for another season, and you kind of think, well, who they've brought in now, Sean Dyche, he will do that. He'll be more similar to Nuno's style than certainly Ange Postecoglou's style.
I mean, even with the Chelsea game, like you say, it's not a game that necessarily they'd be expected to win, even under Nuno. Although you'd think Nuno would at least be able to sort of give Chelsea a scare and make them uncomfortable. But that whole game just sort of summed them up. I don't know how much of it was the editing on the Match of the Day highlights, but because I didn't watch it live. But first half, they were all over Chelsea. They created so many chances, didn't put any of them away.
They were, yeah.
And then as soon as Chelsea woke up, Forest just crumbled, letting 3 really soft goals in quick succession.
Well, Chelsea were lucky to get the lead initially and not be behind, but once it got to that point, they just get over, didn't they, really?
If you're at a point where you've got to beat Chelsea to keep your job, having had the entire international break of Sean Dyche is in talks to take your job, you're just not going to recover from that. It's never going to happen. It was a bizarre appointment. Everyone said it at the time. It hasn't worked. The only thing to be said is they've killed it early before it can do real damage.
Yeah.
Sean Dyche he's a short-term appointment at best. He's going to solidify them. He's going to, come up with a poor imitation of what Nuno's done. They are 1-0 up at half-time against Porto as we record, as it happens. But they're not going to be able to build on it with him.
He's going to think, this is boring and I want a more attractive football, and he's going to go and get someone again. But you should be doing that at the end of a season so that somebody's got a full pre-season to bring in their own players and develop their own style. You don't do that, in mid-season. That's somebody that's going to come in and change the entire style of the club. I just think that's bizarre. I
mean, we'll see.
But, as much as you slag off him as an owner, and a lot of people do, what a terrible owner and all that, but they're still in the Premier League. None of their previous owners have got them there any time recently. So he kind of, he's a bit emotional sometimes and makes some rash decisions, but he's still pumping his money into the club for them.
He's morally questionable as owners go, but then most of them are. One thing you can't fault him for is he's not in it to make a buck. He's not in it to make a name for himself. He's in it to make a successful football team, and that fine. That makes a name for him. That's his success if it happens. But it's not about, you know, he's there because he wants.
It's always good to see a club
wants to make a
that had a great
team.
history like Forest get that bump up again, you know, because they are a big team that have fallen and have.
And he's not trying to. Fine. He's still clearly the biggest character at Forest, but he's not trying to mould the club in his own image or anything. It's just, I want to be successful in English football. Forest are my conduit, but it's still Forest. And you know, there's been a lot of owners who can't even do that.
I think Dyke will do well in terms of they'll be fine this year, but I'm not expecting them to pull up any trees. And in terms of qualifying for Europe through the league, but who knows with the Europa League? Honestly, I wouldn't put it against them getting quite far in that. I really wouldn't, because you know there's a few poor teams in there.
Yeah, I mean they're beating Porto, but I mean if they're a better side than Spurs and Newcastle were last season, and but I guess we should move on to this weekend, really, shouldn't we?
Did you say Newcastle? You did. You said
Spurs and United. I meant
they were not a better team than Newcastle last year.
No, they weren't. They weren't.
You won a trophy.
Quite right. You're quite right.
No, but looking ahead to our kind of predictions for next week, then, in the games that we've got coming up, then. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's some.
In terms of
some intriguing ones
this week. I'm trying to think.
I mean, there's a big game at the bottom of the table. So Leeds are at home to West Ham, and West Ham really need a result in that. None of us have said. Well, there's Dave and Mick, and me. I've gone for a draw, but West Ham need a win in that, or they're in real trouble, I think.
Like Nuno will do fine there, but they've got some poor. They've bought poorly, and they've got a load of draws. And sometimes when I watch what Nuno's trying in it, it's almost like he's shaking his head, going, "What are these guys actually coming up with here?" I think he'll get there in the end, but I think it'll take him a while, and I just don't fancy them to do much this weekend.
You've got Wolves versus Burnley down the bottom as well, and again that's a big one for Wolves. They've got to get a win. They're the only team in the league without one.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal versus Palace, I think, is an interesting
one. Palace.
Yeah. Because Arsenal look good, but you know, can Palace make them uncomfortable? That's the thing. We've all gone for an Arsenal win in that one, and
I went for like 1-0 because I think it'll be like Arsenal will need to defend, and I don't think they'll be like super expressive in that. But I could see them picking up one goal and just holding on and boring us to death for 90 minutes just to get the result, and that might be what's needed.
Yeah, Palace are playing tonight. And they haven't got a massive squad. I don't know how much rotation they're doing. Yeah, to be honest. So I think they might struggle. And
they are high energy, so that's why I think they could fall off as the season goes on. But I don't know if it will happen yet. Normally, you'd say Aston Villa and Man City would be a massive game because Villa usually do quite well against Man City, but I just don't fancy Villa this time.
Yeah, and City are just in that mood where they're just sort of ticking along, aren't they? They're not really trying that hard, but they're winning games. They're winning games comfortably.
Yeah.
And then Newcastle, Fulham are just not in a good place at the minute. So you'd think that would be a good one for Newcastle to get the league form back on track.
I wouldn't fancy as if we were away from home because our away form is not good, but our home form is good. So I would, if we put it this way, if we don't get 3 points, that's a bad result for us at home. So
yeah,
we'll see them.
And then Everton Spurs, I think, is not necessarily an interesting one, but it's an intriguing one because it's two teams that sort of started decently and have both tailed off. So it's about, can either of them start looking good again?
Tailing off slightly, yeah.
So
I know what you mean. Yeah, I did say I fancy a draw on that one.
It's a really weird sort of arrangement of the fixtures this week. So I don't know. I mean, it's partly because of Europe, but you've only got the 4 games on the Saturday. There isn't a lunchtime kickoff because Brentford and Liverpool are playing at 8:00, and then you've got
as you say, 5 because of Europe, isn't it?
Yeah, you got 5 games on the Sunday, and then that's it. Is it? Yeah, 5 games on the Sunday. Have we got a Friday night? Have we? Leeds versus West Ham's Friday. So.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that one.
It's an odd one
because they're not in Europe. There's no Monday night game, isn't there? No. So
no.
But yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any games I massively look forward to, but as always, I'll be happier next time you see us if Newcastle get a win, and I'll be unhappy if we don't. It's just that's how football goes. Anyway, I guess that wraps us up a little bit for this week. So remember that we do have our main Genreverse YouTube channel out there as well, guys. So check that out if you're looking for some content. If you watch this and you think, what else do these guys? Then producer Kyle has lots of content for you to keep you going for hours and hours and hours. And if you fancy reading, if you like to do a bit of reading, some movie news, some reviews before you go to bed at night, check out lrmonline.com, please, as well. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Cheers.